I'm your host, Coach Joe Strong. I'm here with my good friend Sumit Seth from Naamly. Naamly has, in my opinion, kind of changed the game, and they're breaking the molds in what client communication, team communication, and the speed in which your training team, your sales force can communicate with your clients in such a fast and efficient way. Sumit, thanks for taking a few minutes to come on today and talk to our listeners about Naamly and what you guys have created over the last couple of years.
No, thanks for having me. I appreciate, you reaching out and we're doing this today.
Yeah, man. Awesome. So I'll give a quick backstory. I've seen Summit around for a few years now. We share some like interest. We're both in Vince Gabriel's mastermind group, right? We both and we've been members of that group for a long time together. And I see Summit a lot. We talk a lot. I've known about his product. I know a lot of other really high performing gyms that use his product, and I got great, let's call it testimonials from a lot of those people. But like a lot of things here at Varsity House, we're a very mature business and we're stuck in our ways like most businesses. And we were a little bit slow to kind of jump on the Naamly bandwagon. And then after a few drinks and a barbecue, Summit harassed me enough and cornered me enough to get a call scheduled to kind of show me the product, show me the service, and really break it down for me. And when I saw it, I was like, man, this is what we're missing. And the ability to, like I would say, quickly and efficiently communicate with any segment of your population super quick and get some data points that were otherwise not so intuitively available on the regular like POS systems and stuff like that. So Summit, if we kind of go backwards to go forwards a little bit, just tell me a little bit about, your journey, how the fitness space kind of became a thing. I know you come from a previous software space, how the fitness journey kind of influenced you and wanted you to take you down the software rabbit hole in fitness, and where does Naamly fit in, in the realm of all the tech that's emerging in the fitness space today?
Well, those are all loaded questions. So I'll try my best to, in that one question, there are three questions wrapped in, Joe. So from a background perspective, prior to Namli, I had a staffing company and we were providing tech talent, admin talent, mostly tech, to Fortune 500, Fortune 100 companies across the nation. And I came from dirt. So in a very short period of time, we grew from pretty much nothing to doing 10 million a month in revenues. And we were growing 40% year on year. And I was in my 30s and I had about 2,000 people reporting into me. So looking from the outside in, you would think that I was living the dream. And in a lot of ways I was, but it came at a cost. And the cost was I was always away from my wife, my kids, and the health was going down in the gutters. I had that life in the fork kind of a moment where I was like, this cannot continue. So I exited that company, made a little bit of money, and signed up for a personal trainer. And that's how I got exposed to fitness. At that time, I did not know fitness, right? For me, fitness was healthcare. It's like, I have hospital and healthcare background. But anyways, I found Jake, who's my coach, and started doing one-on-one training. And then the more I trained with him, I got to see things from his eyes. And, like you go to these events and you hear people talk about how a coach changes lives. I'm a living proof of that, actually, because my life got changed. My relationship with my wife came back up. My kids began to know me again. And, and just because one life changed, people around me, their life changed for the better.
Sure.
So it's a cascading effect. And I'm a lot more alive now. I mean, we don't make that much of money now. That's a totally different thing. But we're definitely alive. We're having fun and we're thriving. So while working with Jake, I just got to see things from his viewpoint. And that's how the business of fitness found me. And I found my next business. Like, hey, he's having the same challenge. He's getting up early mornings, 4 a.m. He's going back to back. And then he loses sight of the very people, clients like myself, to engage with them. He'll ask me great questions when I'm in the session. Like, what did you eat? Did you do this? But then out of sight, out of mind. And you become very intimate with your one-on-one coach. And you're like, I was like, Jake, what the hell, man? You don't ask me these things now. And sometimes I just feel that Are you just here for my money when I pay you the $100 when I come in for the session? And he's like, no, dude, it's just out of sight, out of mind. He showed me things on his side. And that's when like, hey, we can solve this from technology viewpoint. Like it's, and that's what
It's
happened.
great to have that kind of like tech savvy tech engineer brain where it's like, oh, wait. That stuff's really not that hard to fix. And it's just kind of like reminders to you, reminders to the clients. Hey, check in with your coach, little things like that.
Oh, 100%. 100%.
I always look at it. We talk about it a lot. Me and you've talked about it a lot. Like what you do from 0 to 100 clients, you could literally just do with a pen and paper, right? I mean, most of the time, like, well, I remember my first, 50, 75, 100 clients. It was like, I literally used to just keep track of everybody. I'd give you a number. Summit was number 75. Summit buys a 10-pack. I'd put 10 sessions in there and I would just write the dates under the 1, the 2, the 3, the 4. Like when Summit would come in, I'd be like, all right, June 18, June 20, right? And I'd go back, oh, okay, Summit. Hey, you got 2 sessions left, Summit. It was like so low tech at first and it was cash money in your hand, baby. That's it.
Yep.
I miss those days though.
Yeah, those were the days. And then things have also changed a lot from that, right? Like it was earlier just workouts to now it's all holistic development with the client. It's all engagement. It's not just because now the promise has become not only will we get you results, but this is going to be our third place.
Yes. I was just going to say, it's now the community thing has gotten so big.
Right. And for the community thing to happen, then you need to know and engage with the client outside of the 4 walls of your gym.
Yes,
you need to get them back in. And I think that's one of the biggest things. Like we lose sight of that because part of it is just how we're wired, all of us. There's something to be said, something about the chase. So there's so many people put money, time, energy into chasing the next client, chasing that.
Oh, sure.
And you lose sight of the very people who are keeping the clothes on or keeping, footing the bills and paying you. It's just like you just lose sight of them, So
now, so you had this life-changing experience, and which I think is like when I talk to a lot of gym owners, it's usually one of a few key things that happen in their life. They either come from trauma, right, where fitness training, building up their body armor as a metaphor, was an escape, from things in their life. It was passion for sports and or just training itself, and they got into it. Or a lot of people, and a life-changing experience. Like they had their own weight loss journey, they had their own fitness journey, they had their own health scare recovery, things like that. And then last but not least, you got the pool of people who like, I have no idea what I want to do with myself, but I like this fitness thing. So it just kind of led me down that path, right? And it kept growing and growing and growing. So once that happened and you saw this opportunity to create some, software around the fitness space, right? Naamly was in a sense born at that moment. Tell me a little bit about the service itself and where it fits in the realm of tech, because I think a lot of people maybe misconceive kind of what it is. And I know this was part of my hesitation at first jumping on the Naamly platform, because I was like, all right, you have your POS system, which is your point of sale, right? Your mind bodies, your Zen planners and things like that of the world, who are all kind of dabbling in the client communication process too, right? So there's a lot of confusion there. And then you have your CRM, the high levels and, sales forces of the world and stuff like that, which is your lead acquisition and communication system. And then there's kind of Naamly, which has, and there is gray area. There is kind of some crossover. So where does that fit in, and what's the differentiating factor for Naamly?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And that's something that I guess what's happened is looking from the outside in viewpoint, right? Everybody's trying to say, how do I gain market share and expand in the clients that we already service? So think of it from a point of sale perspective. They already own part of the business and they're like, hey, you're using us. And like studies, empirical data has suggested, the chances of upselling to people who already know, like, and trust you, buy from you is a lot higher. It's about 60 to 70% more. So that's what they're doing. Like, let's go into communication. Let's go and become that CRM. Let's do those things. And the flip side, CRMs are going, well, we have this dialed in. We're an expert in this area. Why don't we build the next point of sale system in? Why don't we build in those capabilities in? So that clear demarcation is definitely blurring, because the intent has become, how do I conquer and get more? It's all about market share. It's all about market growth for everybody.
Sure.
Now, where Namli falls in right now is we realized that the focus is so much from small training gym owners' perspective on acquisition, 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 that we're all missing out on client engagement, retention, and it takes both being savvy business owner as well as maturity, as well as a love for data to know that, oh my God, my retention sucks, right? And the moment you accept that, well, for you to first accept that, you got to understand that in a way you're saying, my product sucks. And nobody wants to take that ownership of saying,
yeah,
holy shit, I'm not that good as I thought I was. Because you think about Julie and Susie, who have been with you for years and they've followed you, but you forget about the other 10 people who came in.
That came and dropped off quick and left. So they didn't make the same emotional impression on you that maybe like Sumit's been with me for a decade. Everybody loves it here, but there's 20 people who were like, meh. And
Yes.
they bounced before you even built a relationship with them.
100%, 100%. You know, I realized, like, if you were to go into your training session and you could see people with these virtual hats on and they said, I'm not having fun, I'm going to leave, I'm not going to come in.
Great analogy.
You're going to start jumping in right there and then and say, what the hell? Like, I mean, I'm going to get you in because you want to make that community, you want to make that impact, right? But you lose sight and you're like, it just becomes a session, you move out of sight, out of mind. And that's where Namly comes in. We bring in that visibility to tell you that these are the areas you need to focus in on to help your members stay longer and pay longer. And that's the real drive. Like, how do you get these people to genuinely buy into that Kool-Aid? And from your viewpoint, from the gym owner's perspective, like, come true on that promise. Because when you sold them, you said, we're not a global gym. We are, you're not a number, you're a family. You're going to take care of yourself. So, well, deliver on that promise, and that's what Namly helps you to do. It's simple.
Right. It's funny. I mean, I think me and you, I'm pretty sure it was me and you. I know we had a discussion last time when we were in Orlando. You know, we were all standing outside and we were talking with Andy McCoy and Devin and stuff like that. And we were talking about there's this small business paradox. I got to give it a name at some point and like trademark that shit, right? But there is this small business paradox where like nobody complains when Starbucks raises their prices because nobody knows the CEO personally. Nobody knows the regional manager personally or anything like that. They just go in there and it's a bunch of kid baristas or whatever like that, right? And it's no big deal. So every year Starbucks raises their prices or changes or has gone from like really good baked goods to like completely garbage, you know, processed food goods, right? No offense, Starbucks, but it's true, right? And you know, and nobody really gives a crap and nobody says nothing, right? People brainlessly, you know, hit the app, poop, you know, $7, you know, mocha choca latte and they're done, right? God forbid, I got the guy Dan here today. Dan's our coffee guy. He's a local small business. He's got a trailer. He comes, does a phenomenal job. Great guy. God forbid he messes up a coffee. He gets lambasted. They leave him a 1-star review, right? And I think there's this paradox when you're a small, locally owned, owner-operated small business, because people feel so emotionally tied to you, right? Like I still, to this day, 28 years later, have clients telling me, do you remember back in the day when it was just you, Mike, and Dan coaching everybody? I missed you. When are you going to come back to coaching full time and stuff like that? Like they're just still living in that dream. So they're emotionally attached to what was. They're emotionally attached to. I see Joe every day. If I got a problem, I should be able to just go talk to Joe. And if Joe's not available, it's like, you know, the world is ending. So there is this weird thing where as your business grows and you go from that, you know, owner operated small business, you're the coach on the floor 50 hours a week, which is the case for the majority of privately owned small business. You start as the coach. The owner starts as the coach. And I don't know anybody who's like really, really good that we hang out with that like came into it in the very beginning as an investor and just hired like a head coach, right? Now that's, as we're scaling, we're doing that. But I was on the gym floor 50, 60 hours a week for, you know, 15 years. Right. And I think because of that, the expectation of service is so much higher. When service fails at McDonald's, the expectation is not that high. We know it's McDonald's. It's a giant corporation with billions of dollars and thousands of shops. But if you got the locally owned hamburger joint and the burgers come out crappy a couple times, people lambaste you and they stop coming, right? So I think what Naamly has done really well for us is, for me specifically, sitting in my seat, and we were talking about this a little bit before we jumped on, sitting in my seat, it's the ability to maintain a high level of communication, client experience, engagement as we grow and expand, and the inevitability that myself, my business partners, and our key management, right, starts to wane from the coaching floor a little bit. And as we start to remove ourselves, and at first it was Joe, and then it was Dan, and now it's Adam's, elevating himself. And then at some point, even Big Mike, up until 2 years ago, was still coaching 40 sessions a week. Now he's down to 20, right? That's 50% less. So his on the floor presence is 50% of what it used to be, right?
Right.
In another year or two, that'll probably be down to 10 sessions. He'll probably coach twice a week in the morning, and just to keep, focus on the community. But it's like, as those key players remove themselves and elevate themselves in a growing company, the only way to maintain the standard of communication and excellence in terms of engagement is to digitize, because you can't remember. We got 400 members here. You can't remember to speak to everybody. That's just impossible.
100%. And like you said, like at the end of the day, that's the paradox, right? For the gym owner, the owner operator, what is the owner operator really after? He's really looking for loyalty.
Yes.
He wants that loyalty from his clients, and he wants that loyalty from his team staff members, because there are horror stories that I've heard and I've seen also now that I've become part of the industry, that trainers do steal clients. It's just,
yes.
It's not by design. It's just, I work out with you. I know you. I'm now going to venture out on my own because somewhere a staff feels I don't get paid enough. And these guys are making buckload of money, and they forget, well, there's equipment, there's lease, there's so admin expenses,
financial risk,
financial. Yeah. You forget all of that. You look at the $100 an hour someone may be charging, and you're like, I just get 30. What the hell? Like, they're profiting out of me. And then that's the
right. Most employees think if we charge 100 and I get 30, they make 70. Like Joe puts $70 for every session in my pocket. Like, no, I put like $5 for every session.
Exactly. So then, but that's their drive to go out. Ignorance is bliss from that viewpoint, because then they venture out and they say, I'm going to make this happen. And where do they go and hunt? They're like, I already have that relationship with the clients that I train and coach, and I say, I'm going to leave. Then why don't you come along with me? I'll cut you a deal. And that kind of, and that's what ends up happening in the space, right? So the owner operator is really looking for loyalty from both sides. And as you mentioned, the more you start disconnecting from the grassroots, there's also this sense of anxiety that comes in, like, are people going to be running this the way I do? And the reality is they won't. They're not owner operators, but now do you have systems and checks and balances in place that can continue to provide that high touch and alert you when you're like, ooh, things are falling through the cracks, kind of a thing. And that's what Naamly does. That's exactly the premise of building Naamly, to say, how do I help that owner operator scale, grow, and provide that high touch point, and be able to be trustworthy of his team, and just still have visibility, trust, and verify that the team is doing the work that they're supposed to be doing, and things are not falling through the cracks, because they do.
Well, I mean, I look at it in two ways, right? So, like, to create loyalty for your clients, we talk about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? And, when your physiological, safety needs, you got food, water, shelter, right? Obviously, most of the people in our areas where we're putting gyms, nobody's starving, there's not a lot of homeless people. So those needs are pretty good, like safety needs and things like that. But really, love and belonging, right? It's like having a group of people, right? We know the power of a group, right? And I would go to bat on this any day as a sport athlete most of my life. And now somebody who's been involved in a variety of different business masterminds. Every time we've joined a mastermind, every time I've been in a great group, anytime I wanted to achieve a great goal, whether it was hunting, fishing, biking, competing in a race. It was like, hey, let me get a couple people to do this with me, right? Because it's like there's safety and power in the multiplying of numbers, right? So you look at some of the things, obviously for a gym, it's the helping people self-actualization. One of the greatest gifts I think fitness gives people is the realization of one's potential, right? And their ability to believe in themselves, that confidence that you get from setting a goal, achieve a goal, set a goal, achieve a goal, even the smallest of goals. Hey, I'm just going to show up 12 times to the gym this month, right? Yeah. That's for a lot of people, that's a huge win. Right. And then as you grow, it's that win leads to the next win, leads to the next win. Maybe the biggest, the overall picture is, for some people, it's like, I got to lose 100 pounds of body fat. I got to get off some of my medications. I look at my situation. I didn't have my son till I was 41 years old. Like, all right, I'd like to see my grandkids. That means I got to make it to 80, right? To if my son's going to be in his 30s when he's having a family, hopefully, right? I got to be, in my healthy into my late 70s and 80s, right? So yep. Those are some of the things that I think about on the client side. Loyalty on the employee side, it's fulfillment. It's the same type of wanting and loving, and like I got a team that believes in me, that believes in my work, that believes in the quality of the human I am. And then look, let's call a spade a spade. It's money, and people want to get paid well for and reward it emotionally, physically, and financially for a job well done. And where Naamly fits into that is that if you can improve your retention in a gym like mine by 1 to 2%, it's over 100 for every percentage is over $100,000 in pure profit revenue.
Yep.
And how a business can afford to pay really well and take care of its people is making money, right? And a healthy financial business can take better care of its people and do fun stuff. And we could take people to Arizona. We could take half our team to Arizona. We could fly a bunch of people to Orlando to go to another mastermind, right? We can have it. We could close all the gyms for a day and take everybody to the city and have an awesome team VH day, right? Things like that. We can pay to bring the coffee truck in a few times a year to just have something fun for our staff and community to look forward to, right? You can't do any of those things if you're living on the seat of your pants and you're broke. And I think the biggest misconception when I get gym owners on the phone, I'm like, tell me about your tell me about your marketing process. It's all looking forward, right? Maybe they have some referral strategies, but they're usually very loose. It's usually not a strategy. It's usually just like, oh, I tell people that they could refer, and I'm like waiting around for people to refer. It's like, oh yeah. Summit's going to get off this call and spend the rest of his afternoon thinking about how he can make Joe and Dan some money, right? Like, people are busy. So Naamly helps to create a system around communication, retention, and awareness of where people are at with their attendance, what products they're on. And I think from us, the data was mind blowing at first. I was like, whoa, this is amazing. Like the one of the things, and you could talk about it, is the at-risk attendance list, right? So one of the cool features of Naamly is tracking attendance. And again, like a lot of people might say, well, I don't need that because I could just run an attendance report in my POS system. It's not the same because this is live, active, like to the moment, right?
Yep.
And you could see people trending negatively or trending positively. So literally like a red arrow, a green arrow. And it's like, oh, hey, man, Joe was coming a ton. And now I see he hasn't booked a session for next week. It tells you if they have a session booked or not. He hasn't booked anything for next week. And he only came once this week, once last week, twice the week before. That's not a good trend. Let's get a call out to Joe and see if he needs a little pump up, right? And see what's going on, right? So that's been, I can't tell you just in the last few months that we've been using the platform, about 6 months now, how many clients we've saved from the fade out, right? Because attendance is the biggest indicator that they got one foot out the door. Once you get down to like one usage a week, twice a week, or even twice a week for some people, it's like, if I'm paying $200, $300, $400 a month, whatever it is, if I'm only coming once a week, at some point, I'm going to say, I'm not using this thing. Let me just cancel that membership. So
100%. So you gave a lot of great nuggets as you were saying that. I want to pull on a few things. One was, as you connect with people and you talk to them about their marketing plan and all, I guess as a small training gym, that's the thing. People forget that there's a capacity thing.
Yeah.
Most small micro gyms at this stage are about 2,000 to 2,500. 3,000 is an outlier nowadays from a square footage perspective. And if you
Yes.
look at it, that means you only need about 100 to 150 members, right?
Yes.
So, well, if you're going to be spending $2,000 a month in just Facebook advertising, like that, let's just think about that viewpoint. That means you're bringing people in, you're trying to up that capacity, but you're losing people on the back end. That's a never-ending hamster wheel that you're on. But if you can just cruelly say, I'm going to get these people and I'm going to extend their tenure, their length of engagement with us, then right there and then, I don't need to be spending that kind of money. So to your point, that's like you talked about hundreds of thousands of dollars, which is true, because if you just add that up and say, I don't need to spend that kind of money, that's money staying in my pocket. But I'll give you a pro tip here, which I've picked up. And as I look at it, like all of us, training gym owners, small business owners, we are so driven by the chase. We have budgets for um, acquisition, for Facebook ads, and we'll give
Sure.
a free trial. How many of us have a retention budget?
Yeah.
How
It's great.
many of
It's a great
us
point.
keep aside 100, 200, 300, $400, whatever it is, depending on your situation, and say, I'm going to take care of the person who pays me, who takes care of my bills, and I'm going to tell them you're appreciated, right? We
Yeah.
don't do that. We just don't do that. And
It's
that's
so weird, man, because all the numbers statistically, you go anywhere, you go to URSA, you go to any of the big organizations, and you dial up the attrition data. It's the attrition standard in America nationally right now is right around 6% for a privately owned personal training gym, right? So that means for every 100 clients, you're losing 6 clients a month, right? Imagine if you can cut that to 3. It's a no-brainer. When people have you've already gone through the dating process. You're already in a sense engaged to these people. The goal is to marry them, right? And get them from, you know, the honeymoon phase of the hot date, you know what I mean, to we're getting engaged and we really like each other a lot and we think we're going to get married, to we're freaking married. I can't go to another gym. There's not a better place on planet Earth that I'd rather be. And like yesterday, just to give you guys some examples, right? We had a woman, Tracy, who's been with us for a long time. She's been with us for about 12 years. Awesome client, right? And she was one of the very first people to come, maybe more than 10 years, 12 years. She probably 2000, might give me 2010, might be maybe about 14 years, right? So Tracy's been with us for a long time, right? And she just crossed a huge milestone in check-ins, like 2,000 check-ins, right? So she's
wow.
been with us for a long time, right? And we call her Mama Grady. And she knitted my son like a little baby outfit when he was born and all that kind of, like she's been through the war with us through everything,
Wow.
right? And that check-in process, and again, not that we're not looking, but again, she's an amazing client and she's here, but we got 400 members, right? That check-in process and the acknowledgement that she was coming up on her 2000 check-in was kicked off in Naamly, right? And it was like, hey, we got a huge milestone. We got an OG client that's paid a lot of money over the years, who's her kids trained here, her husband trains here. The Grady family has invested a lot of time into VH, time, energy, and money into VH, right? Let's make sure this is special. So, we basically rolled out the red carpet yesterday, had a little party for, flowers, this and that. I sent her a private message, things like that. And she wrote me an amazing text like, hey, I have trained at a lot of gyms when I travel and stuff like that. And there is no place on planet Earth like VH. And, as long as you're in business, you're going to have a client in me. And that's the marriage that we're looking for, right?
100%.
And again, it could have easily been like, oh shit, how long Tracy been here? She's been here a long time. And it's like that thing just fades out and you don't even notice it.
Yeah, and like you said, that's the whole thing. You can do anything with paper and pen. What Namdi helps you to do is make things better. Just like you
Yeah.
said about the point of sale, you can run it, yes. But how do I do better? How do I get that edge? We're all busy, we're all occupied, we're all trying to bite more than we can chew, just because that's just
and then some.
and then some, yes. So it's like, we just want to make sure that we make things better.
So
And
give me some specifics, Summit. So give me a bullet point list of some of the real key features that again makes Nomly what it is and makes it special. Again, we talked about the at-risk list and the attendance tracking being in my opinion, one of the most important factors to look at every day. I look at, like, our directive to Mike and Steph is, you check that attendance list every single day. The first thing you look at when you come in is who's on the at-risk list and who has not booked sessions for next week, and let's make sure we get calls out to all those people, so that, because usage and attendance usually dictate the value that that person is feeling in the business, right? And then we
100%. It's all about usage. In a small,
yeah.
It's a small gym. When you're paying $200, $300, $400, it's usage, usage, usage. How do I get them to use more? Because, like I said, it's all dependent on value then. So specifically, it's just the design. So let me give you this example, and this will connect with you because you've seen Naamly, you use Naamly.
Yes.
Most systems are designed to give you information so you can see this is happening, but then for you to take action, you need to go to another place or another system to actually do the work. For example, it is Joe's birthday coming up, right? I get that notification. Now, when I get that notification, I now need to go somewhere else to send that message, to send him that congratulatory, whatever it is.
Right.
So they're two different things. And in that process, you get the notification to doing, well, I don't know about you, but I'm like, squirrel, and there you go away, and I just get distracted, right? So what Naamly by design has done is it's merged both of them. Not only do you get that notification right there and then, you're able to act on it from the same thing. That's the beauty of it. So it's difficult to explain it, but I hope I was able to get that across in terms of how the design is one part of it. The other part of it is, most systems are, just because they're doing so much, we're a comprehensive system ourselves. And the fight that we always have internally is, how do we simplify it? But there's a problem. Like, simplification means, well, we haven't defined what simplification really means. It's different things for different people. But what Naamly does really, really well is,
like, exercise and fitness is simple for me, but for a lot of people, it's this enormously complex thing.
100%. And for us too, like, our user base is the coach, is the trainer, is the owner operator. They're not tech savvy. So how do we reduce the number of clicks? How do we make it better? How do we simplify it? So our internal drive has always been, how do we get people to run the business literally from one screen? So, picture that at-risk report that you're talking about. We're showing so much of information, but digestible at the same time, to say, this is the thing. And those red, yellow, greens, we tell you that person is not engaging with you. The person is no longer responding to you, because you can do things from your POS, from your CRMs, from your phone, reach out, reach out, reach out. You're like, I did my task, move on. I did my task, move on. But no one gives you that feedback to say, well, yes, you did, but you're not connecting with them, dude.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's about connections. It's about how connected are you with your people, your tribe, your community, because that's what you set out to build to begin with. And that's what Naamly does. It's like, we help in truly building your personal connections, and we just help you scale it up. That's the idea.
So another tip from the owner seat, and again, like, for us, one of our key, let's call it, retention functions, and just like our goal functioning in terms of, like, how, because again, like you said in the beginning, was, look, the reality is, in the small business, you got 150 members. In our case, our average price point is a little bit over $400 a month, right? So that's not nothing to most people, right? So, and as the saying goes, the more they pay attention. So when a woman comes in, let's just say our typical, 50-year-old, 55-year-old mom comes in, who hasn't seen the inside of a gym in 15 years, wants to lose weight. She finally has kids that are a little older and require a little bit less of her energy, and now she could focus some time back on her. That's the 75% of our adult avatar, in a sense, right? Is that, literally usually like a 45 to 60-year-old mom. Like, that's the sweet spot, right? And they got 12 to, let's call it, late teen children, right? And now that the kids are in high school, they're a little more independent, and she could put a little time back on her plate. And mom's starting to feel like, hey, like, I'd like to get myself a little bit back in shape, right? The ability to communicate with her and to kind of convey that message to her in a way that resonates with her. So like for us, I think one of the things that we love about it is all the birthday reminders, the session reminders, the milestone reminders, and the speed in which we could action those things, like you talked about, was, for me in the owner's seat, I was getting bombarded by my sales team, like, "Hey, we'd like to send a message out to all the moms. We'd like to send a message out to all the women in the gym, or we want to send a message out to all the people who are just on our class service," right? And it was like I'd have to like scour through the mind body, tag people, right? Print, get a list. Now my sales team doesn't need to necessarily rely on me for everything. Mike's sitting in the sales seat. He's our director of sales. He's sitting there on Wednesday. Man, we're a little light on sales. We're a little light on leads this week. Let's get some specific messaging out to these groups of people. Hey, we're got a special. Hey, if you'd like to upgrade, we've got a 50% upgrade right now. Things like that, right? So they're actioning what we'll call these defensive plays all week long without needing me to be there, right? That's one. And the other thing too is one of our key things is checking in with our clients. Every Friday we do, as a company, the goal is that each coach does their reach outs. So that's, Summit's a brand new client. Hey, Summit, great job this week. You made all 3 of your sessions. Really proud of you. When are you coming next week? I see you only have Monday booked. Can we get those other 2 sessions booked now? Let me know if you need some help. Like, it's a lot of that type of stuff. Or Summit's an old client, I haven't seen in a little bit. It's, "Hey, Summit, where you been, man? I haven't seen you in class in the last 2 weeks. What's going on?" Right? So all those types of things. In the past, it was like, "Hey, Mike, did you do your reach outs?" Yeah, I did them. "Hey, Steph, did you do your reach outs?" Yeah, I did them. Right? But now I can see them in a dashboard, and I can see literally a number, how many communications every single employee has done. You could assign groups of people or individuals to a specific coach. And if the directive is, "Hey, you have to reach out to all the people in your coaching group every single week," and they say they did it, now I can look and say, "Dude, you didn't call anybody. What are you talking about? Don't tell me you did that shit. Like, you got to do that. You got to do it." And we could also help them set up some automations too. So again, like new client life cycles and stuff like that. So that's a powerful tool, man.
Yeah, and we just built it from grounds up, man. We just had conversations, more and more conversations about how a gym functions. Just building on of that, even if they reached out, now how many of the people that they reached out to connected back with them.
Yes.
Now that's even more powerful because now you can go in and say, "Hey, Steph, this is great that you reached out, but no one's responding back to you. Let's see what you're reaching out to them. What's the message you're sending?
Yeah, exactly.
Let me coach you and coach you up now and level up your game," because that's the whole idea. Like, you're now building the next generation of people, team members. You're leveling them up, and they were like, "Yeah, we're learning. We're investing more in it." So everybody's.
That's a great point. I mean, and I've thought about that a lot because me and you have had lots. My goal has always been, we're a very open book finance company. We're obviously we have the business consulting, so we've always brought our people into that. And my goal was, I'm personally been in education for 20 years as a professor, as a part-time professor, right? So I've taught, anatomy and physiology, biomechanics, cell physiology for years at a local state college, Montclair State University.
I did not know that.
Oh yeah, still there. I just came from there today. I came right from there, right to the podcast, right? And I love it, and I've always kept that because I just love teaching, right? I think that's my purpose, on planet Earth. I was brought here to help, improve people's lives and give them some directive and perspective. And I always, me, I'm very self-deprecating. If a broke ass poor kid from Jersey, if this Jersey meathead can do it, anybody can do it, right? It's just I have average skills, average intelligence, right? Average ability. I have superior above average work ethic. And if I've always been of the mindset, if I saw somebody else doing it, that gave me the self-belief to be able that I could too, right? So, but I think as a teaching tool, my goal has always been to create entrepreneurs. I always try to improve the knowledge base of all of our employees on the business side of things. It's one of the first things we do when we hire a new person. When they go through their onboarding, we do a 2-day intensive, me and Dan, where we basically give them a 2-day business of strength course where we spend 2 full days in them and break down all the aspects of the business: sales, marketing, operations, finances, and we kind of lay it out for them so they can see this global picture that, wow, this is a real company. This is not just like, we don't just train people and it's, we put shorts on and we just go train people. Yeah, we lift weights. Now that's a real business. And we're trying to I'm trying to be the Fortune 500 of small privately owned gyms. You know what I mean? And so by creating those entrepreneurs, by having the data points, by having those conversations, I think it takes the emotion out of some of the tough conversations that you have to have. Because before we had an actual data point and a digital platform that told you exactly how many reach outs and how many people or how much attendance or how much attrition, a lot of it was by emotion. Oh, we don't lose any clients. When I talk to gym owners on the phone, I'm like, what's your attrition rate? No, we don't lose anybody. That's a lie. That's not true, right? You've lost no clients, right? How many clients you got? I got 5. Okay, now I believe you. But if you have any more than like 50, you're losing clients, right? All the time, right? So that's one. 2, employees, and again, this is no knock on my people. They're amazing, but employees always overvalue their action versus the actual thing. Just like when you come in and you ask somebody, how fit are you on a scale of 1 to 5, 5 being like you can win the Tour de France, right? 1 being you haven't worked out in 20 years. I would say most people are like a 2, 2.5, right? People tell you 3, 4. Some people, oh, I'm a 5. I work out 5 days a week. I was like, dude, 5 is like you're Rich Froning. 5 is like I could probably get up right now and place in the CrossFit Games. Like, you're not a 5. You're not a 5, right? So I think that's taken a lot of that emotion out of it. And like I said, and like you said, I could say, hey, and I'm just using Steph as an example. Steph does an awesome job with our sales, but it's like, hey, Steph, like, people aren't responding to whatever messaging you're putting out. Let's take a look at it, because either it's not personalized enough, maybe it's too brash, and like maybe it's not frequent enough, they just forgot about you, or maybe it's too frequent where like you're sending people like multiple messages a week and they've DND'd you on the text messaging. So, and as a teaching tool, it's just one more aspect of learning the business, because if and that every trainer wants to make more money. But if your sole focus as a trainer is on the X's and O's of training in the private sector, that's only going to get you to a certain limited level of pay scale. The golden goose in the gym business, on the private sector gym business, is getting good at sales, client communication, marketing, or leadership. You have to manage people, or you have to learn how to generate revenue, right? And so being a really good coach in a private sector gym can get you a really good job. It's not going to, you're not going to be leadership team. You're not going to be management level if you can't manage humans or generate revenue. And the best people, like the Mikes, the Adams, and the people that I have, you look at people who've transcended in other people's companies, right? Like Jeff, who works for Devin and so forth. Like, they've been able to do all 3: lead people, generate revenue, project manage, stuff like that. This is another kink in that, hey, I want everybody to learn how to sell. Mike's going to do a little workshop on Naamly, show everybody what we're doing. We record calls, and you could show everybody, and there's this teaching platform ability that I love about it. So,
no, thank you. That's absolutely right. And as you were saying that, you're talking about revenue. At the end of the day, for a small owner operator, I would say, in addition to the revenue, it's like, how much of money are you keeping in your pocket? The profitability, right?
Sure.
And the profitability really comes down to, like you said, one is revenue aspect of it. How much more do we make? But the other part of it, which we also forget, is expenses, right? Now, when you look at Naamly initially, or you look at any software, you look at anything, it's like, oh my God, I'm going to be shelling out more money for this. And the way to look at it is, okay, if I shell out more money for this, what am I eliminating? What am I now cutting back on? And or what am I doing more new stuff, which I wasn't doing earlier, right? Which I guess we become very short-sighted and don't look at. So you might be right now having someone do that work. It's monotonous, it's mundane, it's routine, so it doesn't get done in the rhythm, the cadence it needs to be done at, 1. And 2, if it gets done, there might be still typo errors. Like, you were going back to your putting down things. Yes, you're diligent, you did it, but not many people could follow through on, I sold you 10 packs. Did you really come in? Maybe I lost 1 or 2. I don't remember. Right there, your money's gone, and you forget about that. You just accept it as cost of doing business, but those things add up. Little hinges move big doors. It's all the time, every time.
Yeah.
So you just need to become business savvy from that viewpoint and say, what really is an investment and what really is a cost? Because we buy shit that we don't even need. And then we don't buy good stuff that we should be buying, which will actually help.
$6 lattes.
There you go. Mocha Loca. I love what you said there.
My mocha chocolate.
Mocha Chocolate. Yeah.
That's actually the name of an old friend's dog. Mocha
Really?
Choca.
I love that. So talking about features, one thing that also crossed my head was internal communication, right? Like as a team, as you have a lot of floaters. When I say floaters, part-timers.
Part-timers and stuff.
Yeah, that's what I found out. So what we did is we've also built in their schedules in. So now it's like, hey, if a message comes in or an email comes in and you're assigned to that coach, the system's smart enough in saying, well, that coach doesn't work on Mondays. Let me take it to the next person. So now you're providing this unified way of working. You're professionalizing the business. So the client's not waiting on one person or saying, I just told that to staff. Come on. I mean, and you don't know this, Mike? Like, what the hell? So no, we work collectively. We're one team. We're one organization. A lot of that is what we've worked towards building and coming up to the forefront. So we replace Slack. Like we have that inbound as well, whereby now you can communicate internally. So you don't need to have another channel like Slack or Facebook internal messaging or a text message there, because you want to separate and segregate business and personal lives. You don't,
sure.
So things don't fall through the cracks. And for your staff and team members who are maybe floaters and part-timers that are coming in, they're like, this is business in a box. I don't need to have 20 things open and be scattered brain. I can just do one thing, get in here and do my job. I mean, there are a lot of things like that we've built in.
Yeah. And look, I mean, for people listening too, like, I mean, Naamly, I think, in the realm of tech is very inexpensive, right? Because there's lots of other systems out there that are way more expensive. Salesforce being one of them. And again, it's a great product for like a giant business and a more robust business, but it can be thousands, a month and so forth. So there's lots of, and again, when you look at, I think the increase in communication and engagement leads to an overall need for external, let's call it new marketing spend, right? Because if I can reduce, again, you look at the idea like that we had, the whole reason why we signed up and the conversations that me and you had was like, hey, this year hasn't been our greatest year for attrition. We're hovering at or above the 6% mark, which for us is a fail, right? We're usually trying to come in under 5, and we had for years. So we've spent a lot of time and energy looking at the product, improving the schedule, are we giving the clients what they need and want, stuff like that. And then obviously, one of the things that we decided was like, hey, we really need to improve the communication and engagement, because, what Dan, Joe, and like maybe Adam and Mike used to be able to do when we had 100 members and we used to talk to everybody personally on the gym floor, texting people all day and every day, writing handwritten, meal plans and all that kind of stuff. Obviously at this scale, with multiple gyms opening up and another one on its way, right? And the consulting, it's just impossible. So the ability to maintain that communication and lower that attrition means a couple $100,000 in business. But if I save $100,000 in business leaving the gym, and my marketing spend is whatever that's going to be, I can say, well, you know what, we've gotten attrition back down under 5%. I probably don't need to spend as much on digital ads and external lead acquisition. I can focus a little bit more of that money on, let me give some of that money. Let me take that 100 grand that I made back on the attrition save. I'm going to pull another, whatever, 500 a month off my digital ads, right? That's going to save me another $6,000 a year. That $6,000 a year, I'm going to give directly back to the clients. And that's going to be a monthly client engagement event, a discretionary spend where we're going to get like our clients of the month, like really cool gifts. Instead of just giving them like a $5 gift card, it's going to be something awesome, like a fully decked out VH swag bag or a custom bell or something that's meaningful, useful, and actually cool, other than the $5 Starbucks gift card. And so forth. So I think like when you look at all those things, there should be kind of like this thought process in your head of titrating. For those of you who can't see me using my hands, I'm Italian. I got to talk with the hands, right? But for when it gets on YouTube, you'll be able to see. But you should be able to titrate one thing goes down, the other can go up, right? So if my attrition goes down, right, the need to, I can move the other needle in a sense. I can take more of that money and spend it back on the client. So if as attrition improves my revenue and my profit, because when you save attrition, the difference between lead acquisition is there's no lead money spend, right? When I'm ads and so forth, there's no guarantee on return,
Correct.
right? When you keep a client, that's a guaranteed return. They're already paying. They can just keep paying, right? So 100%. When you save attrition, it's pure profit. When you spend on lead acquisition, it's still taking a risk. You're still rolling the dice a little bit. So it's a very different thing. And I don't think a lot of gym owners think about it that way. They just look at money in, money out, right? And it's like, well, if I spend $5,000 a month on ads, I'm hoping that increases lead flow and the quality of leads goes up, and I have enough people in that pool to generate the revenue to justify the expense. But if I spent $5,000 a year on retention and I keep those people, that's 100% pure profit. And there is a little bit of a difference there.
No, that's very well said. And we also forget that if you take care of those people, what's going to happen is, like you were talking about the Grady family.
Referral machine, exactly.
They become a referral machine. They bring their friends, they bring their family, and that's free. They just gave you another client free of charge. You're talking about the coffee guy. They're spending that money in your gym. That's more swag, apparel, water bottles, smoothies, whatever you're running. So the lifetime value of your client goes through the roof just if you take care of them. And that's really what we're all about. We're like, how do we get members to stay longer and pay longer? And really stack up those wins, because now you're like, now I am building that community. There's another angle to that, Joe. What happens is most owner operators, trainers that I've met, they start the business because they have big hearts. They're like, we're doing it for the welfare. We're doing it for goodwill. We're doing, like, it made a difference. Like you said, those 4 reasons, it made us feel good. We're going to pass on this goodwill to the entire world, right? And in that process, when people leave, it does have a psychological impact on you as the coach, and saying, am I not good enough? Like,
the imposter syndrome a little bit. Like, man, maybe my training does suck.
Maybe my training does suck, right? And maybe I'm not that good enough. And you try to shove it away and put on this posture like, no, everything's great, everything's cool. But deep within, you're like, maybe I'm not that good itself. But once you start seeing the effect, wherever you put your attention, things happen, man, at the end of the day. So it's like, hey, if I put my attention here, if I take care of my people, you're like, yeah, I am good. People trust me. And I'm now building that community that I really sought out to build to begin with. And that community is not possible if any of these things are broken. If you have a bad training thing, if you have bad client communication, you have bad team members, and that's what it's about. How do I bring them all together so we provide that excellent service, excellent product? Because the product is the culmination of all of these things to put together. It's like a car. A car doesn't mean here's a steering wheel, here's an engine. It's all of those things working in tandem, doing their job. That's
right. An engine without wheels is still just a piece of metal.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. And, and again, for people listening too, I just want to make sure there's a clear, like, is if you're a gym owner listening to this right now and you're saying, well, I got the POS, I already have a CRM system. Like, I don't know if I need this. I would urge you to give it a try. And because that was my thought process too. It was like, where does this fit in the middle of the things that I already have? And just to give some insight as to how I think it can fit in for everybody is, and again, it's not about spending more money. Like I said, it's investing in the quality of the product, the process, the people, the engagement, right? And if spending, anywhere from, a small amount, 100, 200, whatever, a couple $100 a month on a product to keep one client a month, I mean, that's basically a wash. That's a zero, loss or gain, right? So in a sense, if you can keep one client for 1 month longer, that paid for that month, right? And so, but the other thing is the with Naamly was the onboarding experience. What I thought was really great too is the customer service, right? Because one thing that I, look, and I'll land base them here, right? Like Mind Body, good luck getting somebody. Like, it's hours sometimes to get anybody. Zen Planner, you're listening, coaches. You're all frustrated out the wazoo the ability to action a human on one of those larger, global billion-dollar platforms. Let's face it, like, MindBody's a mega billion-dollar company. They're not worried about Joe Riggio and Varsity House because we only have X amount of gyms, right? They have accounts that have thousands of gyms, and that might be a bigger player in the space for them, right? So what I loved about Naamly was we had a call. Obviously, I knew Sumit directly, so we had a few calls directly with him. But as soon as we just made the move, his team was on me like white on rice. They were on the onboarding was seamless. We had to fill out a couple forms. They made it super simple, and they've continued the communication and onboarding process well into the usage, so that hey, where are you needing it? What questions do you have? Let's do a training call. Let's get on let's make sure you're using these functions and stuff like that. And they've really gone above and beyond to make sure that we were getting the value out of the product, that my team knew how to use it, knew what its capabilities were, knew how to use it, and then has consistently kind of poked and prodded to make sure that they were doing those things and continue to do those things. And my involvement, in all transparency for those listening, has been meeting Sumit. That's pretty much the involvement. Hey, I met this guy who's got this thing, and I think it could really help. Mike, you got this? Okay, good. All right, see ya. Right. And so the reality is like, other than putting in the payment information, right, and giving Sumit and his team my credit card, the rest of it has been absolutely zero effort on my part, which again, as somebody who's in a busy role scaling, that was one of my reservations. Was like, man, if I do this, am I going to have to be on all these damn calls? And that was one of the things that you specifically were like, Joe, you do not have all I need from you is the okay and the dollars. Everything else I'll take care of with your team. Tell me who to speak to and I'll make sure it gets done. And that's what they did, and that's been great.
Well, thank you. That's what it's all about. I think, like, I go back to my earlier statement, it's all about making things better. And we realize these gaps exist. We all know these gaps exist, but very few of us take the time and energy to act on it. And I'm very proud of the team that's, as a company, we have decided to put our energy behind it, because we're like, that's the missing link. It's no different than you go to a Trader Joe's. I don't know if you have Trader Joe's in the East Coast.
Yeah, of course.
Right? You go to a Trader Joe's, you go to Costco, you meet those people versus you go to a Walmart. It is different. The service is day and night.
Yes.
Looking outside in, you would not know that difference had you not been to both stores. And it's as simple as that. So you're just dealing with different people. It's no different than when I started my fitness journey. I was like, I signed up for Lifetime Fitness. It was cool, but I didn't have any experience. I was like, what the hell? I have to do like, for me, it was fitness, but I was like, no, I'm just renting equipment from a place.
Cool stuff to play with, but no real community or experience.
Exactly. Then I found Jake. I'm like, oh, this is different, man. Now, once you're in the space, then you realize, oh my God, you have small group, you have semi-private, you have one-on-one, you have sports performance. Now your vocabulary changes because you got exposure to it. So all I'm saying is, if you've not tasted it, you just don't know what it is. And that's the thing about customer service. You need to experience it, and now you know where it stands out.
Awesome. Sumit, this is great, man. I think we gave people a really great insight into Naamly as a product, but also, some of the topics we talked upon, from the operational side of business, speed of implementation, retention as a focal point in your business for everybody, which it should be, right? That should be a number that's on your scorecard, right? Attrition should be a scorecard metric for every gym owner, right? Leads, trials, conversions, attrition. And then if you want to take that step further, which we have, it's like having an actual referral metric every week, a reactivation metric every week, and an upgrade metric every week that we're trying to hit. And Naamly's helped us tremendously maintain those numbers and standards. And obviously, saving time, right? When everybody starts their entrepreneurial journey, it usually was, like we said, almost all of us come out of some type of passion that got us into coaching. Like no kid wakes up, no mom and dad, when their kid's 2 or 3 years old, it's like, I hope my son grows up to be a successful trainer, right? It's like lawyer, doctor, engineer, architect, astronaut, right? Whatever, right? I'm thinking, I hope my son's going to be a trainer, right? Like when I told my mom I was quitting, PhD school to open up a gym, she almost killed me, fell off her chair. I built this building, and when I brought her here, right, I brought her up on the catwalk here, and I said, Ma, did you ever think that buying me that book right there on the wall would lead to this. She goes, Joey, you should have been a doctor. Right. So, I don't know if I still want her over with the gym sims. He's still like all that heavy metal and rap shit. I don't know. Why does every gym got to play that shit? Right. So the reality is that, we all start this for, passion, but it's really what is the key to successful business? Making a good living, right? And making sure that it pays you back, right? The reality is that you don't want to start a business and make no money, right? And the average gym owner makes somewhere less than $40,000 nationally, which is absolutely horrific, right? You couldn't rent my garage and live in my garage for that type of money. You want to have fulfillment, right? But you want time and freedom, right? So like if you own this business and you make no money and you work and you're opening the gym at 5 a.m. and closing the gym at 9 p.m., right? And you have no time either, right? Well, what do you got then, right? You don't really have the business owns you, right? Now, I don't want people to misconstrue here because I'm big on, there's going to be a season where you got to put your nose on a grindstone and crush yourself, right? Most gyms that could be, 3 to 10 years, depending on how long it takes you to really get some steam and get things moving. For us, it was, 10, 15 years of killing myself. Right. And then we get to a point where it's like, I get a little older. I'm 48 now. It's like, hey, I don't want to be here till 9 o'clock at night. I'm not opening the gym at 5. Like, so time is a big concern for me, and Naamly helps you buy back your time. So, and that's really some of the things. So Sumit, do me a favor, tell everybody what's the best place to get in contact with you? And I know you got something special for all the listeners on the BOS podcast. So what do you got for us?
Yeah. So for all the listeners, we've put this Fitness Boost bundle together, which is a series of resources which you can use on your own to help you with your retention efforts, how you can go about doing it. It also tells you how you can hire trainers, because one of the things that we hear a lot from our community is, I need better trainers, I need better coaches, but where do I hire them? And it's a pain to get them. So we put this resource together as well that you can leverage, as well as we spoke a lot about running Facebook ads, how you can acquire clients without running Facebook ads. So these are 3 great resources that we've put together, checklist guides, and I'll send you the link. It should be, once you have it, you can put it in the notes and what have you, Joe. So that's something they can use. If someone wants to reach out to me directly, well, that's my email is Sumit, SUMIT, @naamly.com. Just reach out. Happy to connect, chat, and be of service.
Awesome. Well, I'll put the business bundle in the show notes with your contact email and the website for Naamly so they can check it out and take a look. Sumit, thank you for coming on. Thank you for being a gracious sponsor for our business retreat we ran in September. And thank you again for sponsoring the Underground Strength Con coming up in a couple weeks. I love, again, taking a chance on each other, helping each other a little bit and bringing companies like yours to the forefront and showcasing it to our community and the people that come here for our workshops and stuff like that. I think it's an invaluable service, and it gives people another layer in their tech options to improve engagement and communication. So thank you so much. We really look forward to a great partnership with Naamly over the next few years and beyond. And best of luck with growing the company. I know you guys are up to some really cool stuff coming for 25. So
no, thank you very much. Thanks for having us, and thanks for trusting us, and thanks for believing in us as well, Joe, because I know you don't do it for anything else. It's that you got to earn it. So I appreciate you giving us a shot, and you're getting results now. It's all about getting results. So
fantastic
that you're a believer
thank
now.
you.
So,
absolutely. We have converted to the dark side. Awesome. This is the Business of Strength podcast. This is Sumit from Naamly. Go check him out when this podcast. Go check the show notes and make sure you communicate with them for all your client engagement and communication needs. Thanks a lot, Sumit. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Bye.